Welcome back, subscribers. Currently, we're on day 155 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and the top story for today is that the Ukrainian military successfully destroyed that bridge over the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. They accomplished this with HIMARS missiles, and I actually have a picture of what the bridge currently looks like, and it looks like we're getting a live reaction from a Russian soldier. But in all seriousness, I have an article here. I'll link it down below. This is from a structural engineer who has examined videos of the bridge and pictures of the bridge. And basically, this bridge is now useless. It's going to take extensive repairs before it's safe for a truck or a tank to travel over. Basically, the HIMARS missile finally successfully punched through this lower end of this kind of bridge type. And if you were to try and drive a car or drive a tank or a truck and it touched the wings, the entire bridge would basically snap and fall over. However, the bridge still is sort of standing, so if you're wanting to walk across it or potentially retreat across it on foot, it's still possible for Russian soldiers to do so. So what has occurred over the last month is that Ukraine has been going down a very long list of high priority targets, such as command posts, fuel depots, and ammunition depots. They're now starting to mop up air defense systems and radar installations because it is theoretically possible that Russia could come up with a software update for their air defense systems and then potentially start successfully intercepting and shooting down these HIMARS rockets. So it's important that the Ukrainian military start going after their air defense systems. One, they're very expensive. Two, they make nice explosions when you hit them. And three, you want to make sure that your missiles are hitting everything that you intend to hit. So what's coming this next month is a huge counteroffensive from the Ukrainian military. And Ukraine has warned the Kremlin to retreat or be annihilated. This is what is coming. So here's the war map on deepstatemap.live. Russia's making virtually no progress in the Donbass region, and I've shown this to you in my last couple videos, but this north bank of the Dnieper River is Ukraine's #1 priority for a counteroffensive because they want to liberate the city of Kherson. Potentially there's 200,000 Ukrainian civilians living in the city, and what I think is going to happen at some point in the next couple weeks is that Ukraine is going to go all out on HIMARS strikes to strike everything east of Melitopol and within the 70-kilometer range of their trucks. And they're going to hit as much as they can in one night, wait for the Russians to respond, reshuffle, reorganize potentially, hit them again, once again, wait for the Russians to respond, reorganize, regroup, and then probably hit them again. It's going to be a 72-hour bombing campaign, and then all of their armor, all of their soldiers on the front lines are going to advance and try and mop them up before the Russian military can respond. So it's going to be a lot of fireworks, a lot of devastation. And this begs the question, are there enough of these guided precision rockets for the HIMARS system to keep up with the Ukrainian war demand? And this is a very interesting question that I've been asking in previous videos. And the War Zone did a very good analysis. I'll link this article down below. If you want to read the full article, I recommend it. But I'm going to give you the highlights here and the astonishing numbers that absolutely shock me. And on Tuesday, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had a call with Reznikov, this is the Ukrainian defense minister, to talk about, among other things, 4 additional HIMARS launchers being promised to Ukraine. This would bring the total up to 16. They also have the M270 launchers and the Mars 2 launchers, so Ukraine is building up their arsenal of these medium-range launchers. But the number of precision-guided rockets being supplied to these systems has not been made public by the Pentagon. So the Pentagon is saying how many launchers they're sending, but they're not publicly disclosing how many missiles. This is the question that I've wanted answered the last month. So this retired general said in a Twitter thread, this is Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He served as the commanding general of the U.S. Army Europe and 7th Army. He also raised alarms about the rate at which Ukrainian troops are firing off the stock of HIMARS munitions. The HIMARS missile being used by Ukraine has a 200-pound warhead, GPS guided, and it hits what it wants to hit at a long range. Yes, the US does have a very large stockpile of these precision smart missiles, but the manufacturer can only make about 9,000 per year. So the question is now, how many does the United States roughly have? And the HIMARS without GMLRS, this is the precision guided missiles, the launchers are useless without missiles to fire. Kansian, who is a Department of Defense acquisition expert who was interviewed for this article, he said that the stockpiles were depleted during the Afghan and Iraqi wars, which lasted almost 20 years. Thankfully, those wars are over. However, there's still an ongoing fight with the Islamic State and various jihad groups. But over the last 30 years, the United States has manufactured and purchased about 50,000 of these precision-guided missiles. And they used about 20,000 in our war in Afghanistan and Iraq. So if you just do the math on a piece of paper, you can calculate it that potentially the current inventory of the United States Army and Marines, the two branches that operate these systems, their stockpile is currently 30,000 missiles. So of those 30,000 missiles, how much is the Department of Defense potentially willing to give to the Ukrainian military to use against the Russian military? And while there are differences between the GMLRS and man-portable missile systems that are being built and produced, Kansian said that if the US provides Ukraine these precision-guided missiles at the same rate that they're supplying them Javelin missiles and Stinger missiles, then that would equal roughly a third of the current US inventory, or about 10,000 rockets, which sounds like a lot. Yeah, the Ukrainians keep talking about how they want 100 of these HIMARS launchers, these trucks, but the limitation is not the trucks. The problem you will have is you will eventually run out of rockets. So let's think about what has happened the last month. And let's use very large numbers. Let's exaggerate to be on the safe side. And let's say that Ukraine in the last month has already successfully targeted 100 targets for the Russian military, command posts, ammunition depots, fuel depots, air defense systems. And they launched 6 missiles at each target. 6 times 100 is 600 missiles in 1 month. And the United States potentially is willing, over the next 6 months to a year, to supply about 10,000 of these rockets, meaning that only 6% of the devastation and damage and destruction capable of being inflicted on the Russian military has already been inflicted. And another 94% is coming. Another 9,400 of these precision-guided GPS missiles. There's several different types with different capabilities and different ranges. I think eventually the United States will start supplying longer range, the 300-kilometer range missiles. But 9,400, potentially more, are coming to be used on the Russian military over the next 6 months or as long as this war continues. I think we have a reaction of what the average Russian soldier thinks of another 9,000 plus of these HIMARS missiles being used on them. So in response to this, is the Russian military taking this serious? Vladimir Putin's top military advisors, they have to know what the United States is capable of supplying to the Ukrainians, and just seeing what the effect has been the last month. How can Russia possibly sustain this rate of loss, this rate of being struck by these precision-guided missiles going into the future? And this was a post made on social media by Dmitry Medvedev. He was actually the former president of Russia in between Putin's terms. And I think this shows that Russia's senior leadership just isn't taking this war serious, because this is what he thinks the war will turn out. He thinks that in the near term somehow, Hungary, Poland, and Romania will join the war on Russia's side to divide up Ukraine. Poland will take all of this region, Hungary will take this region, Romania will somehow take these two oblasts, Moldova will remain free and independent, and then Russia will reclaim or take everything else, leaving just Kyiv to remain as Ukraine. He obviously did this as a joke. There's no reason why these three NATO countries would partition or participate in Russia's aggression against Ukraine. I just can't fathom it. I just don't understand it. So will this war end in a ceasefire or a peace agreement with concessions being made to Russia? Will Russia end this war, claiming or getting control of any of Ukraine's territory? And Ukrainians will not tolerate this. This was a poll recently conducted, and 84% of Ukrainians are against any kind of peace agreement with Russia if it involves territorial concessions. This is according to the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology. They published this poll on July 27th. Only 10% of Ukrainians are ready for territorial concessions in order to end this war. So Russia's not doing well with their... The reason why Russia engages in acts of terrorism, bombing concert halls, bombing supermarkets, bombing ports, is because they want people to feel terrorized in order to be willing to give up territorial concessions to end this war. Let's now rapid fire. I'm going to hit you with just more bad news for Russia. The Philippines has scrapped a Russian helicopter deal. They were set to buy 16 Russian military transport helicopters, but the Philippines is wary of potential sanctions that might be placed on them for continuing to buy Russian military equipment. Once again, canceling a deal like this, it's just another economic pressure point to hasten the demise of the Russian economy. Poland has signed an agreement with South Korea to purchase 48 fighter jets, 180 tanks, and more than 600 howitzers for the Polish army. Poland is not messing around, guys. Every time I read something about Poland, I am so thoroughly impressed with everything they've done to aid and assist Ukraine in their war. None of this would have been possible if it wasn't for Poland. And South Korea is not a member of NATO, so I think it's very interesting that they're choosing to buy all of this military equipment from them, but potentially the weapons manufacturers in Europe and North America are going to be quite busy over the coming years. So it's good that money is being spread around, and this is really going to do a lot of good for the South Korean economy and their own domestic arms production. Next piece of bad news is that Patriarch Kirill has officially been banned from Lithuania. He's a former KGB agent, very close friend of Vladimir Putin. He's been very much in favor of this war of aggression. So screw this guy. I'm glad that Lithuania officially banned them from his country. Russia is also saying now that they're going to pull out of the International Space Station after 2024. This is good timing because SpaceX and Elon Musk can now send astronauts to the International Space Station. 10 years ago, Russia was the only country capable of doing this, but Russia is choosing to pull out of the ISS after NASA condemned Russia's use of the space station for propaganda purposes. So what happened here is that Russian cosmonauts brought with them a DPR flag. This is one of the separatist breakaway regions. Why they would choose to bring this flag with them when obviously their carry-on luggage is very limited. And then, of course, they posed for a picture with it and posted it on social media. This is being blatantly political on a space station that is supposed to be about science and exploration. It should not be political when there are American and other nationalities sharing a very tight living space. So you've got to be pretty stupid and pretty evil for NASA to start condemning you. Next piece of good news is that the U.S. military is going to start treating wounded Ukrainian soldiers at a German military hospital. This is Landstuhl. The U.S. military is now offering medical care to wounded Ukrainian troops at this regional medical center in Germany. This is the premier American hospital in Europe. This is according to the Military Times. Next story I want to share with you involves Vogue magazine. They did a photo shoot with President Zelenskyy and his wife, the First Lady Olena. And these are some pretty decent pictures. I really like them. I think when the war is over, people will probably share these photos and remember these photos as being iconic of the war. And the picture I think that it's getting the most buzz is this one of Olena sitting on the steps with all of these sandbags protecting this government building in Kyiv. It's being called a iconic feminist photo, and the reason why is because the First Lady is not wearing a lot of makeup. This photo has not been heavily photoshopped. They're trying to show the reality and the drag on the average Ukrainian during this war, during this troubling time. This is pretty interesting, but there's a Ukrainian deep tech startup that is trained in AI to paint war art. This is some efforts to create NFTs and sell them to benefit Ukraine. And these pictures are pretty good. I'm actually kind of impressed. I'll share a couple photos, and once again, a computer generated these images. So I'm a big fan of this kind of art. Additionally, 3 or 4 months ago, there was a big buzz that the Ukrainian post office released this special stamp of a soldier flipping the bird to the Moskva on Snake Island. This was a very popular stamp that did pretty well. So the Ukrainian Postal Service has released a new stamp of a Ukrainian tractor stealing a Russian tank in a field. Just once again, an iconic image from this war. Here's a picture that I found that I really enjoyed. There's a lot going on in this picture. But there's a Cossack on horseback with HIMARS armor, and he's holding a Bayraktar falcon with a Stugnapi pipe and a javelin or an Enlaw in his belt. I don't know who this artist is. I don't know who Cousteau is, but I think this is a pretty cool image. I'll share it on Twitter if you wanna copy it. Last thing I want to share with you is titled Minecraft House, built on the front line, and it's constructed out of these Russian artillery cases. So whenever artillery is brought to the front line by the Russians, they use these green wooded crates. And a Ukrainian defender, there's tens of thousands of these crates everywhere over the country now. And a Ukrainian defender decided to build a small home out of it. I just want to share this with you because this is pretty creative.
Я сегодня немножко доработал наш домик. Осталась крыша и дверь, но мебели здесь добавилось. Появилась еще одна раскладная лавка. Съемная пепельница. Пару раскладных табуреток для наряда по кухне. Это наш холодильник, который работает аккумулятора. Ну, собственно, рабочая поверхность. Как-то так.
Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. That's all for this update video. If you found it informative, give me a thumbs up. Really helps out with the channel. If you have any comments or questions or know something I don't, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.